start recording. All right, excellent. I would like to welcome Mr. Berthe Abderahmane, the Secretary General of the African Airlines Association. Berthe, you're most welcome. We truly appreciate you taking time to join us at this virtual conference.
Thank you very much, Nick, for inviting me to this interview.
Yeah, thank you. You're most welcome. Could I start by asking, can you update us on how many members, airline members, does AFRAA have today?
As of today, we have 45 member airlines. During the last 3 years, we have increased the number of members. Maybe it shows that we are adding value to our members. And apart from members, we also, as you know, we have also partners.
Yes, of course.
We have 32 industry partners.
32, excellent. And what percentage of the total RPKs in Africa does AFRAA represent?
Oh, we represent roughly 85%.
So quite a huge majority, really.
Yes. Yes. Most of the global African operators are members of AFRAA.
Yes. And let me start with the pandemic, really. How has AFRAA responded to addressing the needs of its airline members?
Thank you very much for the question. Since the beginning of the pandemic, AFRAA has been very active. In March, we have, at the beginning, we have launched an appeal to African government to support their airlines. I think AFRAA was one of the first organizations to issue such appeal to government. And also we have organized on 20th of April a webinar for our members, and we come out with a recovery plan, 9-pillar recovery plan for our members. We also have made an appeal in May with other international organizations to put in place a fund for the aviation sector. AFRAA participated also to the high-level task force set up by the African Union Commission on May on the pandemic. And as you know, the task force come out also with many recommendations, specifically some recommendation on financial support to airlines and putting in place a fund to support African airlines. We have staged also a webinar on 4th of June with Afrexim Bank and UNECA and IATA related to the financial support to our members. So we are taking a lot of initiatives. Also, we have launched a capacity sharing portal for our members to optimize their fleet utilization, because most of our airlines have a lot of fleets grounded currently.
Yes. And can you expatiate on your 9-pillar recovery plan for African airlines?
Yes, the recovery plan is on 9 pillars. The first pillar is related to government and states. It's to say what the government has to put in place to support airlines. The second point is to regulators. I mean, because of the grounding of aircraft, pilots not flying, there were some measures to be taken by regulators to facilitate the restart of operations. I'm talking about, for example, the airworthiness of aeroplane and the recurrent training of pilots being grounded for quite some time. And also the third pillar is about suppliers and service providers. What the airlines have to do during the downturn period to negotiate with suppliers and service providers so that they can restart their operation. The fourth pillar is about customers. What to do to bring confidence to passengers to come back to travel, for example, and the protocols, health screening protocol to be put in place during and after the COVID. And also maintenance and MROs, what to do on maintenance and MROs side. For example, we know that aircraft being grounded, many engineers are out of work today, and many spare parts also are available. And we are putting in place a project also on MROs currently, and also the cargo operations. Yeah. What to do on the cargo side, because during the pandemic, we have seen that the cargo activities was growing because of transportation of essential medical tools. And for that, we put in place, in fact, a forum for a coordination and cooperation between African cargo operators. And also the human resources, because human resources are really very impacted by the pandemic. Many workers have been laid off, or some have reduced salary currently. And we need this human resources for a start and the future of the air transport industry. So what the airline can do to motivate these staff and maintain them ready for the restart also. And the last pillar is about strategies to maintain business continuity, because it's very important to think about the sustainability of air transport industry for the future, to avoid such big impact on our industry.
Yeah, and, congratulations. Please go ahead. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
And these are the 9 pillars we have put on our recovery plan.
Yeah, congratulations. That's a very comprehensive recovery plan. So kudos to you and your team at AFRAA. Well done on that. When we look at the pandemic and the health protocols, of course, in Africa, you have so many jurisdictions. What are you doing to work with the AU and AFCAC to harmonize health protocols in Africa so that restrictions on travel can be lifted?
Yes, this is also a very critical point today. Since June at AFRAA, we wrote to the regional economic communities, urging them to reopen borders as soon as possible, but also to put in place an harmonization of protocols. Because you know the ICAO CART takeoff guidelines, which was published in June, was not talking about testing. And we are seeing now that the requirements for testing are very different from state to state. This is a very, very critical issue. And we are pushing for an harmonization and also mutual recognitions of the protocols from between the countries. And AFRAA has participated, has pushed for harmonization, and has participated to some meetings staged by African Union Commission, seeking to harmonize the protocols across the continent. And also, we are worrying today about the PCR test fees. We can see a wide range of fees required from passengers. It goes from $50 to even more than $150. Yeah. So this is will impact the traffic in Africa, and we are pushing for free PCR tests for passengers to bring back more confidence to passenger to come back to travel. And also, you can see today, if you take a PCR test in one country, it's negative. You go to another country, still they will ask another test. I traveled 2 months ago to Europe. During this travel, I took 3 PCR tests. Yeah. So for passengers, it's really a big problem. So we really need to come up with solutions on these protocols requirements.
But do you feel that progress is being made to harmonize, concrete progress?
Yes, I think progress is being made, because African Union Commission has organized some meetings between ministries of transport and ministries of health, and they are also working on the trusted travel project, which was launched 10 days ago. And the AFRAA is supporting this project. The objective is to harmonize across the continent and also to come up to a mutual recognitions of protocols on the continent. So far, 37 states have endorsed this project.
Oh, well done. It's really good to hear that. This is, of course, the 29th Annual Air Finance Africa Conference. So let me drill down on finance. What impact financially will the pandemic have on your members? Traditionally, African airlines have been collectively loss-making for many years. And I think according to IATA, the future, even before the pandemic, the future was not looking too rosy. So given this pandemic, what effect will it have on the airline finances of African airlines, in your view?
Airlines have been grounded for quite 4 or 5 months without no revenue. And AFRAA made some assessments. And our last assessment is that the lack of revenue for 2020 will be $9 billion for African airlines compared to 2019. We also have made a survey on April with United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, on the indebtedness of our members on 2020 and 2021. We had 16 airlines which responded to the survey, and the indebtedness was quantified at $3.2 billion for 2020 and 2021. So the liquidity issue is really a very critical challenge for African airlines today. And we are really urging states and financial institutions to support airlines. There are many means of support to airlines. It can be grants, it can be loans, it can be deferral of some charges also. And we also are urging government to equally support the private airlines. Because we are seeing that the support from airlines so far are going to state-owned airlines. Between our members, we have some private operators also. I think they need also support for their government. This is really very, very critical, because even if we are seeing a restart, the conditions of restart are very, very difficult, because airlines are operating with very low load factors. And also they are reducing the ticket fares to attract passengers. So having low load factor and reduced revenue per passenger, it means that the flights are economically very difficult to sustain in the long run. And we can see up to today, we have only 71% of destinations which were reopened by airlines if you compare to February. So we still have 29% of routes which are not yet reopened.
Yeah. So when you look at it, it's quite critical in Africa. You talked about a $9 billion loss of revenue collectively this year, and you talked of 3.2 billion indebtedness collectively. So that is quite a steep hurdle to overcome for African airlines. Of course, they have very tight liquidity. Do you think the banks, African and international, and the aircraft leasing companies will be supportive to African lessors given their financial plight?
Yes, I think they are willing to do so. You know, if the commercial banks need some guarantees and some collateral when they have to give loan to airlines, so they need to look at the books and also the plans for the future. And it's a work in progress. We are still in discussion with international financial organization, pushing for support to the industry, and also African Union Commission. is pushing states and international financial organizations also. The high-level task force has commanded to put in place $25 billion fund to support the industry. And we are still continuing to work on this plan. Even in 2 days, we will have another webinar to see how to implement this recommendation.
Okay, very good. Let's turn to air transport liberalization in Africa. If we look at the Yamoussoukro decision, YD, it had about 40 members signed up, legally bound to YD, and now that has been replaced by the Single African Air Transport Market, SATM, which I believe we have, what, about 30 African countries giving a solemn commitment. So my question and my concern is that under YD, over 40 airline governments, in fact, made a legally binding commitment to liberalization. And now under SATM, only maybe 30 have given a solemn commitment. So solemn commitment is weaker than a legally binding agreement. So I wonder, are we making progress in Africa in terms of liberalization? How do you assess the situation?
Okay, the situation difference between YD and the SATM is that we have with SATM, we have a legal framework. We have also an implementation plan. So far, we have 34 states which are committed to SATM. And most importantly, we also have 18 states who have signed engagement to review their bilateral air service agreement so that to comply with the Yamoussoukro decisions. And also we have an implementation agency, which is the African Civil Aviation Commission, which is working on now on the project. And all the stakeholders are involved. We have a joint prioritized action plan, and all stakeholders have some activities to do. And we have a yearly meeting of all stakeholders to see where we are and to plan the next steps. The last meeting was on January in Dakar, and I do hope that very soon we'll have another meeting. And also, I would like also to talk about the African Civil Aviation Policy, which also is very important for the industry. It was elaborated many years ago, and AFRAA has just launched a revision of the African Civil Aviation Policy. And we'll work on it, all our member airlines, to improve the document and to adapt to the new context of liberalization and also the COVID, the need for cooperation among African airlines.
As AFRAA, are you monitoring the new routes that have been enabled by SATM?
We, in fact, what we are doing, we had a route network coordination meeting early this month. And what we are doing is to try to see all the networks, airlines network on the continent, and to identify where are the gaps and to see how, through cooperation, our members can fill these gaps. So we are putting in place a template, and we will ask all our members to give data. From this data, we'll identify which airlines can talk together to fill the gaps. This is a very, very important project, and we have launched during the last Route Network Coordination Committee, which was on 8th of October.
Okay, that sounds very good. Let's talk to the African airlines collectively. According to earlier reports, they only have 18% of air traffic to and from Africa. And year on year, it's been going down. I think we used to have about 50%. Now it's down to about 18. Is that likely to continue to reduce, do you think? Or how can African airlines get a bigger share of international traffic?
So there are many things to do. First, I talk about the African civil aviation policy, which is very important to create an environment for African airlines. And also the market, African airline market shares can be maintained and can grow if we have strong African airlines, sustainable. That's why at AFRAA we are working on the sustainability of African airlines. And I think the COVID-19 is also an opportunity for African airlines to rethink their business and to see how to strengthen their operation. If we have a strong African airlines, I'm sure that they will reconquer the market shares on the intercontinental.
Yes, but how can AFRAA specifically enhance cooperation and collaboration among African airlines?
This is through projects. I talk about the joint capacity sharing portal. We are working also on a spare parts sharing portal, and we have other projects. During this COVID-19, we have launched, we are working on, let's say, more than 8 new projects. And in the near future, we'll disclose this project when they will be ready to work. And these projects are really aimed to strengthen our members and to make them cooperate to be more sustainable.
Africa, of course, has many big airlines and many small ones. When we look at one of the bigger ones, the earliest founders of AFRAA, South African Airways, currently struggling to survive. What is your view, your perspective from AFRAA? What can be done to rescue SAA, for example? Because the alternative is for them to be liquidated, which would be a great shame for Africa, for AFRAA, and for the airline industry generally.
Yes, I agree with you, because South African Airways is one of the first members and founding members of the association. You know, the liquidation of an airlines depend on the shareholders, depend on the financial situation. But I'm sure even if a South African airline, as it is today, is liquidated, a new South African Airways will appear and may be more strong and more sustainable. And I do hope that South Africa will have a big airline, because it's a big country in Africa. Of course, if I know that the government of South Africa has tried many times to save the airline and to keep it running. And I do hope that the willing of the government is, at the end of the day, to have a very strong carrier. And I'm sure that South Africa will remain for AFRAA a big country in terms of airlines operating there, and the traffic, the market share this country has at the continental level.
Yeah, we hope so. If you look around Africa, we're seeing new joint ventures. For example, Egypt Air in Ghana, which is a new development and very positive. We're also seeing Qatar Airways with Rwandair having a partnership. Do you expect this trend to continue in Africa, either with a foreign partner or with an African airline partner? Is that the way forward for Africa?
Yes, I think that even in other regions, at a stage to grow, an airline needs strategic partners. Yeah. That is what is happening in some areas. It depends on the strategy of the airline who is taking share also. It depends also on the strategy the country has to develop its air transport system, I'm sure that for the future, we'll have this kind of partnerships. But I do think also consolidation is key for the future of the continent, because we have 54 countries, and for me, it's not possible to have so many small airlines. So we need some consolidation. We will have, at the end of the day, maybe 6 or 7 global operators, and we have also some strong regional operators, which systems have to work together so that we have a good connectivity within Africa and out of Africa. So the air transport of the business model has also to be rethinked so that we have a sustainable air transport system.
Yeah. I mean, given the pandemic and the crisis in the global airline industry, can you comment about airline leadership in general, especially during this type of crisis, from your perspective?
Leadership is very important, even out of the COVID-19, because airline industry, you know, it's full of new situations.
Yeah.
And you need to have a good leadership to give a direction and to give a strategy. And you need also, of course, to have a good management. And in Africa, we have seen, unfortunately, some lack of leadership on aviation sector. And we really need to improve leadership. Sometimes the lack of leadership is due to the governance of the airlines. And at AFRAA, we are thinking even to stage some training on leadership and management of airlines, because this is very, very important. For example, we have staged last year a seminar for our members on leadership, planning, fleet planning, network planning of airline, which was very, very interesting for our members. And we will continue to build the leadership and the management level across the continent.
Yeah, thank you very much. In addition to leadership, one of the other themes of this conference is innovation. And I think with your recovery plan, obviously you're heavily involved in innovating. Can you just talk about Africa generally, innovation as a way forward?
Yes, innovation, the COVID-19 is an opportunity also for innovation on our sector. Innovation at airports, also on the passengers' experience path. And there are so many innovative solutions which are being proposed to airlines during this crisis, and airlines need to take this opportunity to go through innovation, because innovations are bringing solutions to some challenges to airlines, and also they can be source of cost saving for airlines. And at AFRAA, we are organizing since April many webinars with our partners, ICT partners, for example, to try to put in place and advise our airlines how to innovate for the future, and we will continue to do so. And for innovation, Africa is in a good place, because, you know, Africa has a very young population, and this young population are very, very good in new technologies, and this is a good thing for our continent.
Yeah, thank you so much. In closing, do you have any final thoughts for our participants and for our audience in general, and for African Airlines, of course?
Yes, I am very pleased to address your webinar. the 29th African Aviation Summit, which is on air finance. It comes at a time where finance is very critical, and I wish a good meeting to the participants. And I hope that the discussion will come out with recommendations to find solutions to this financial situation. Airlines need really liquidity to support the restart. I am optimistic. I think that the recovery will take some years. I think also the growth trend of African traffic will be shifted, but will remain. So let us prepare for this bright future for air transport in Africa.
Absolutely. Berthe, I want to thank you sincerely. I want to congratulate you in person and your team at AFRAA for the great job you're doing to mobilize cooperation among African airlines. And we look forward to speaking to you again soon and to hopefully visiting you in Nairobi.
Thank you very much. You will be most welcome in Nairobi.
Thank you very much. Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Okay.
All right then.